Mortal Kombat games aren't really known for their compelling, branching narratives. That said, MK11's single-player campaign boasts a number of pretty spiffy outcomes. Classic Tower, on the other hand, gives players a glimpse into each character's destiny following a series of brutal battles. Get over here! Because we're diving into every single ending in Mortal Kombat 11. The final ending of Mortal Kombat 11 story mode sees Raiden and Liu Kang going all Dragon Ball Z and fusing together to form a god. Fire God Liu Kang battles Kronika in a fortress, and if you're able to get through the fight with her without losing a single round, you'll get the best ending.
Each realm must choose its own destiny. Whatever those choices, we will face them together.
In it, Liu Kang gains control of Kronika's Sands of Time and sets out to create a better world with Kitana as his queen. Raiden actually becomes immortal, losing his Elder God status and handing over the Protector of Earthrealm title to Liu Kang. We'll have to wait and see what Liu Kang and Kitana's version of peace will look like in later iterations of Mortal Kombat. This ending occurs if you are unable to have a perfect final battle against Kronika, but you still manage to defeat her. It is essentially the same ending as the best ending. This time, however, instead of reshaping the world as king and queen, Liu Kang and Raiden partner up to shape the world. Again, no guarantee that those two would do a good job of creating history. These two have screwed up plenty before, especially when it comes to keeping from beating the hell out of one another. The romantic angle of the Liu Kang Hearts Kitana Forever ending elevates it above this one, but who knows, maybe Liu Kang and Raiden could get together. All they need is that one…
wait for it.
Spark. Get it? You get it? This one hardly counts as an ending since you can retry the battle right afterwards. However, fail in your bid against Kronika and yeah, not really an ending as you can retry immediately, but Kronika's quest to balance the realm starts with her knocking your head off. Don't let it end there.
Let the new era begin.
Baraka is essentially just a savage warlord. He typically doesn't lead with his brains, but with his claws and teeth. His ending continues that tradition as he uses his newfound time control to go back in time and unleashes the Khartan army on the realms, long before they were enslaved by Shao Kahn. Baraka conquers Edenia, Outworld, and finally challenges Earthrealm in the Mortal Kombat tournament. Considering Baraka's ending concludes with him holding up Raiden's severed head and exclaiming, quote, "We haven't run out of meat since," it seems likely that he and his Tarkatan warriors enslaved the entire world. Cassie Cage isn't some cosmic being or supernatural warrior. She's just a young soldier fighting to do right by her family, her friends, and her own moral values. So it makes total sense that she rejects her cosmic powers, stating that that type of thing is for the, quote, Liu Kangs and Kitanas of the world. Instead, she uses her
redonkulous cosmic power
to remake the timeline to become a model soldier and command the forces of Earthrealm. At least she still remembers her inspirational parents when it's all said and done. She brings her mother back to life and chugs a beer with her. Aw, what a gal. One of Mortal Kombat 11's new characters, Cetrion, is obsessed with balance throughout much of the game's story mode. However, a battle with Liu Kang changes her perspective, and her ending harps on a major theme of Mortal Kombat 11. Balance is not only possible in the world, but inevitable. Cetrion uses her newfound abilities to travel back in time in an attempt to help good overcome evil. But she runs into a problem. Mortals keep fighting and killing each other. No matter what she does, good can never really overcome evil, there will always be balance. So to keep mortals humble, she basically burns everything to the ground. You know, like a reasonable deity.
To appreciate my gifts, mortal sins must be cleansed, which is why I baptize the realms with fire.
D'Vorah has seen her people subjugated, executed, and hunted just for existing. When she takes control of Kronika's hourglass, she's pretty pissed that the insectoid chitin have been labeled as vermin and sets out to do something about it. She kind of has a point. She argues that humankind will unite against common foes, but when there isn't one, they just kill one another. Chitin will work together to assure the survival of their species, however. So she decides that, in her alternate history, people will be the pests and chitin the dominant race. Her ending finishes with images of monstrous chitin eating tiny people and tearing them in half. Hey, you gotta get your protein somewhere, right? Erron Black's ending is fairly similar to Cassie Cage's. His just seems a bit cooler because mysterious lone gunslinger is more fascinating than cocky soldier. Erron doesn't just refuse the mantle of Lord of Time though. He also irrevocably changes things so no one can mess with time again. Instead of using Kronika's hourglass to create scores of towns that are in fact big enough for the two of us, Erron throws the hourglass into the Sea of Blood. He does this to ensure that no one can alter or see through time again, leaving the future a total uncertainty.
Once the hourglass gets dumped in the Sea of Blood, ain't no one ever shaping history again.
Sub-Zero dismissed me. Raiden dismissed me. They all did. even Kronika.
Frost has got some serious dismissal issues. She's tired of being overlooked, forgotten, and underestimated. She uses Kronika's hourglass to ensure that never happens again. She becomes the head of the Lin Kuei, the ancient warrior society led by Sub-Zero, and she seeks to use its army of ninjas to travel through time and wipe out anyone who opposes her. Now, if only some plucky, time-traveling heroes could go back to the past to when Frost is a baby and… you know what? Never mind. That's a whole philosophical can of worms we are not prepared to open today. Although he serves Kronika through much of Mortal Kombat 11, Geras does so very unwillingly. Defeating Kronika finally allows him a chance to rest. Instead of the constant cycle of rewinding and restarting time, Geras decides to create one perfect timeline where he won't have to meddle in the affairs of mortals. Guess how well that works out. Geras gets frustrated because of that whole free will thing. Mortals won't choose the paths that he sets out for them. As he keeps attempting to reshape time, he realizes the Lord of Time gig is essentially worthless as long as free will is around. He sees this as a blessing, however. Geras sacrifices himself to resculpt Kronika's sons, allowing her hourglass to run itself and giving him a chance to finally take a load off. Oh man, this one is kinda brutal. Jacqui loves her dad, Jacqui Briggs, and hates how he suffered over the storyline of Mortal Kombat. Jax was turned into a revenant, sort of an undead puppet for the baddies in earlier titles. Even though he has regained his control and humanity, Jax is still haunted by his time in the service of the evil sorcerers. Jacqui seeks to undo her father's time as a revenant.
I'm protecting everyone he'll risk his life to save. In my shoes, it's what he would do. It's what a Briggs does.
However, Jax met Jacqui's mother while he was undergoing treatment for his PTSD. Without serving as a revenant, he never goes to treatment, meaning he never meets Jacqui's mom, meaning Jacqui is never born. Jacqui knows this will happen but considers it a noble sacrifice. She wishes her father good luck as she dissolves to dust, Infinity War style.
I know you'll never hear this, but… goodbye, Dad. I love you.
We're not crying. Shut up, you're crying! Jade does pretty good work in a Mortal Kombat ending. She waffles between bringing back her lover, Kotal Kahn, or her best friend Kitana to serve as the Khan of Outworld. She then makes a better choice. Screw that noise and bring back the world that Shao Kahn destroyed. As the Jade of the new timeline grows up, she realizes her powers and eventually becomes a protector of Edenia. Eventually, this takes her as far as defeating both Shinnok and Cetrion. This presumably keeps the realms at peace without interfering from the meddling Elder Gods. Of course, the one that raised an internet controversy. Jax's ending starts like you'd expect, Raiden warning him not to overreach, as he'd be likely to lose things he held dear if he manipulates time too much. It seems likely Jax will do something to forego his time as a revenant. Instead, he prevents slavery, because come on, wouldn't you? We see images of Africans being led to ships in chains. Time reverses, and then we see images of European explorers greeting African rulers with respect. Soon, Jax is shown walking in a modern city with his adoring family by his side.
I don't get it right the first time, or the second, or even the third, but eventually, I knock it out of the damn park.
That's both badass and beautiful. Why did this one upset people again? Johnny's ending is extremely similar to Cassie's, as he realizes that he would never have transformed from brotacular movie star into a functional human being without living the same life he had. He has to let fame go to his head and hit rock bottom in order to actually gain the love and respect of his family and friends. So he uses Kronika's power to restore the universe's timeline exactly like it was. He goes through all the same ups and downs, making a single change. He rescues Sonya at the beginning of Mortal Kombat 11's story, since
Johnny Cage flicks always have happy endings.
Another character who doesn't want the gig of Time Lord, Kabal is a bit of a slacker at heart. All that responsibility just won't work for a guy like him. Instead, he rewinds time and offers control of the hourglass back to Kronika, with a modest request. He wants a chance to, quote, take out anyone who's ever tried to burn him. Cut to a shot of a bloodied Kabal standing on top of a pile of dead bodies, which includes Kano and Sonya, triumphant. Kabal then gets to retire to a wife and kids in a mansion that looks more like a military compound. Little Easter egg, Kabal's wife is a former MK fighter, Serena. Kano's ending starts out exactly like you'd expect. The depraved killer sets up a timeline where everything goes his way. He sits on a throne, drinking whiskey, and watching two bikini-clad women battle in a steel cage. But Kano surprisingly has a moment of self-reflection. Getting everything you want without working for it is boring. So he sets up a new timeline where he actually has to go through effort to get things, and he enjoys it much more. He tells us that he doesn't always win in this new timeline, but he usually does. Considering the last shot of his ending shows him in a shootout with Sonya and Jax, holding the amulet of Shinnok, he's not doing too badly for himself. Like Jade, Kitana lost her homeworld of Edenia at an early age when it was invaded by Shao Kahn. Since he outlawed all Edenian traditions and culture, Kitana never got to experience her homeworld. She uses Kronika's powers to bring her homeworld back and experience it for the first time. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out well for her.
The truth was hard. Though Edenian by blood, I am not an Edenian.
Trying to live in the Edenian culture is alien to her, and she quickly returns to her true role, Khan of Outworld. It isn't all for naught. Kitana incorporates what she learned from Edenian culture to become a more just ruler. The final shot shows Kitana sitting on a throne in the arena, watching two Edenian fighters spar with practice swords as a crowd cheers. Maybe Outworld won't be so bad under her watch. This weird little dude is tired of being held back. Defeating Kronika means that Kollector can finally take what he wants. Everything. The Kollector uses his time-altering abilities to take all of Outworld's treasure, using it to buy favor and make his people, the Nakh-Nadan, the most powerful force in Outworld. He uses his power and influence to become Khan of Outworld, even changing the throne to feature his likeness on its back. Outworld is not enough for Kollector, however. He wants everything, and uses his newfound abilities to start conquering other realms through Mortal Kombat. He essentially becomes a new Shao Kahn, just better...
Wait for it.
Armed. We'll see ourselves out. A just Aztec warlord, Kotal was never going to use Kronika's powers for anything nefarious. Kronika offers him a chance to rule an all-powerful Aztec race, conquering all the realms and ruling peacefully with Queen Jade. Kotal turns his idyllic fantasy down, however. Instead, Kotal leaves her dad on the floor and claims the mantle and responsibility of Lord of Time from her. However, he is merely a keeper of time. He refuses to use it to shape the destiny of anyone. Kung Lao, Frost, and Liu Kang are all shown begging Kotal to change their destinies while he sits unmoved. He waxes, quote, "Let the sands fall where they may." Yeah, okay, so maybe he's kind of a jerk. Kung Lao uses his power to change the timeline of Mortal Kombat's past, allowing his ancestor, the Great Kung Lao, to defeat Goro instead of falling against him. The Great Kung Lao goes on to inspire the world, and Earthrealm never loses a Mortal Kombat tournament again. Kung Lao isn't an idiot, however, and he all but bets that, quote, "Inevitably, a more powerful enemy comes along." However, when Onaga, the Dragon King, makes a surprise appearance, his entrance is cut short, quite literally, as he is sliced in half by
Kung Lao, immortal lord of time and warrior supreme.
Then he adds,
"Beat that, Liu Kang."
This proves that even when fighting demon warriors and defending Earth from an eternity of slavery, martial arts tournaments are just bros trying to one-up each other. Ever the selfless, responsible warrior, Liu Kang accepts the mantle of Lord of Time with a heavy heart. He uses his powers to create a new council, replacing the Elder Gods with the people he loves and trusts. His new Elder God Council consists of himself, Raiden, Kung Lao, Kitana, and his former teacher, Bo Rai Cho. Through it all, Liu Kang pines for a simpler life, where he can grow old with Kitana. If only he were an all-powerful being with the ability to mold history.
Kitana and I would not give for those simple pleasures. Perhaps in another timeline, it could be ours.
Oh well, there's always next.
Wait for it.
Time. Okay, we're seriously done now. Talk about bleak. Noob Saibot betrays Kronika, snatching her powers for himself and blanketing history in cold, endless night. Noob uses his newfound powers to become the literal personification of death, even dropping a Bhagavad Gita quote on us. Yeah, this is some miserable, heavy storytelling.
Now I become death, destroyer of worlds.
Noob's ending is about as dark as they come, as he kills seemingly every Mortal Kombat character and subjugates them as his undead warriors. Strangely, when the bad guys win in Mortal Kombat 11, that idea of inevitable balance sometimes flies out the window. Poor Raiden is still just trying to figure it out. Upon the realization that Kronika manipulated his emotions to drive a wedge between him and Liu Kang, he decides to go full Spock and use magic to destroy his emotions. Love, anger, fear. Raiden burns them all out of himself and decides to become Keeper of Time as a being of pure logic. It doesn't work. Raiden quickly learns that,
unless tempered by compassion and heart, logic leads to decisions no better than those based on anger or fear.
He then returns to the start of eternity, determined to use logic and love in conjunction to bring about a peaceful universe for every realm. Considering Raiden's track record, Color is skeptical. In trying to bring back his family and seeing the same tragedy play out in timeline after timeline, Scorpion eventually comes to learn that there are several beings like Kronika. These titans are older than the Elder Gods, and are far more powerful. They also use mortals as pawns in their cosmic game. Scorpion doesn't know who they are or how to stop them, but he vows to use this newfound power to figure it out. And then
I will have vengeance.
The fact that we know these beings exist in the Mortal Kombat universe certainly sets up some future antagonists for entries down the line, for us to tear to shreds as good old Scorpy. This one's pretty straightforward, so let's speed through it real quick. Shao Kahn uses Kronika's powers to do what he's always done, shape history to worship him. He merges every timeline into one, and he shapes that timeline so he is its supreme leader. Shao Kahn basically keeps on Mortal Kombating to his heart's content. Boom, done. Next.
For centuries, the tournament's champion has gone undefeated. That champion is me!
This is one scary lady. Skarlet binds the blood code to the sands of time, becoming a literal blood god and reshaping all of history to worship her above all others. She initially does this to gain Shao Kahn's recognition, but quickly realizes that her powers have surpassed those of a surrogate father. She makes her religion dominant, demanding sacrifice and rivers of blood. Her story ends with Shao Kahn bowing to her in front of the Outworld arena, as Skarlet enjoys seeing the once powerful warlord on his knees, begging for the recognition she once sought. Sonya decides that, to battle the powerful immortals who threaten the realms, presumably the same ones Scorpion found in his ending, she needs a strike force of divine beings to go in and stop them. In classic Mortal Kombat fashion, the only way to make a new god is to kill an existing one, so Sonya starts going Cthulhu hunting. She grants divine power to Cassie, Jax, Jacqui, and Johnny, meaning that the team takes out 4 more ancient or powerful beings in their quest to safeguard the world. Not bad for a character who dies in the first act of the game. Sub-Zero could have gone all selfless, and he almost does. Ultimately, he decides to use his power to prevent his brother, Bihan Noob Saibot if you're nasty, from becoming evil. It's actually kind of touching. Sub-Zero studies Bihan's entire life to see the places he went wrong, and uses that knowledge to prevent his brother's corruption. Eventually, he succeeds, and the two join forces to battle evil and defend our realm.
Together, as joint Grand Masters, we lead the Lin Kuei in defense of Earthrealm.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more SVG videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.